I want to thank you for joining me today. Today, we're going to tap back in with a little bit of story time. And before we do that, as always, all the messages that are released on this channel are my truth. And that is exactly what it is and always will be, my truth. My truth consists of a bunch of experiences that I have gained clarity from, which ultimately took me back to the real me, which is truth. Now, I will not try to convince you that my truth is the gospel. My truth is nothing more than breadcrumbs. By me leaving these messages, if someone comes along these messages and they resonate with them and they find themselves not knowing how to proceed further on their path, you want to follow these breadcrumbs? That's cool. If not, that's cool as well. So my purpose is to assist those who are ready to get out of their own way. So the story today is going to be basically the first domino, I will say for sure, the first domino that put me in a dark place. And from that point on, things were just kept trying to add to what was already a bad situation. So what am I talking about? So let's get into it. So this is while I'm still in the military, right? So I hit the 19-year mark. And when you have a year left in the military, that's when you're able to drop your retirement papers. So I already knew I was ready. So as soon as I hit my 19, I dropped my papers, right? Everything goes through, papers get accepted. I'm like, cool. Now I see a light at the end of the tunnel. So I know no matter what, I'm getting out on such and such date, right? Okay, cool. So I'm happy. Like I'm on top of the world because I know I'm almost done, right? So now, just 1 month later, so now I have 11 months left and I go into work, right? Go into work, open up my email, as I always do first thing in the morning. And on the 11th month, open up my email. I have 11 messages. So now 11. Coincidence. Okay. So I have 11 messages from finance. I'm like, is this a glitch? Like, it's got to be like, I don't know. It got to be a glitch. So I click on the first email. It says, you owe us 18,000, blah, blah, blah. I was like, what? So I click on another message. You owe us 12,000, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. I click on another message. You owe us 13,000. I was like, what? So all these messages had different amounts in them, right? And they basically equaled up to $126,000 and some change, right? So I'm like, oh, this has got to be a mistake. I was like, this is insane. What? So I call finance and they tell me that I was supposed to never receive what they call BAQ with diff. So what happened was 11 years prior, I was stationed in Japan, right? And went into work one day, same type deal. I check my email and finance says, hey, we have a question about your dependent status. We would like for you to come in to have a sit down. Okay, cool. Go into finance. And they say, okay, so what's going on with your dependent status? We see you claiming 2 dependents, but your dependent's not with you and this, that, and the other. So I explain what's going on. Then now my youngest son, so what happened is my youngest son, before I PCS to Japan, my youngest son was just born. So he was like a couple months old when I had to leave because his mom said Japan's too far and she couldn't go that far and this, that, and the other because of medical reasons and yada, yada, yada. So I was like, okay. So they was like, okay, so your dependent couldn't come with you because of medical reasons. And I said, yes. They said, okay, well, if that's the case, you qualify for BAQ with differential. And I said, I've never heard of that. I said, nah, that don't even sound right. So he proceeds to pull out the regulation and pull it out and show me. And I read it and I was like, yeah, that does line up for what was going on with my case. And they said, okay, cool. So bring in the necessary paperwork. So he gave me a list of the paperwork that I needed, which consisted of stuff from her doctor saying what I was saying was true and yada yada and blah blah blah. So I do all that, turn it all in, and I start getting this extra pay, which was cool. So now, fast forward 11 years later, they say, "Oh, you was never supposed to receive that." And I was like, "Well, first of all, you guys called me into the office telling me I was supposed to receive this." So, and I saw the regulation myself. So what about it is wrong? This is the part that pissed me off. They never could tell me why. No, that doesn't apply to your case. I like, why didn't it apply to my, like this, the regulation states right. They never gave me a clear answer. Never. So that's right there pissed me off, number one. So this when I started looking at it sideways, I'm like, this doesn't even feel right. So now I'm thrown off my game. At the same time, my oldest son comes to live with me because he got in trouble in school to finish off his last year of high school. Now, I'm at the end of my tour, so I couldn't get him on my orders that way, so which means I don't even get paid for him to be over there. So now they take that pay that I was getting for 11 years. That's automatically, now you're getting something for 11 years. Of course, that's incorporated into your bills and your way of living. So now they're taking that money out. I can't remember what it is. I would have to look it up. It was not a cheap amount. It was like $1,600. It's a nice amount of money, right? So let's just go with $1,600. Okay. So now I'm minus $1,600 a month that I'm getting for 11 years. Right. So I'm like, wow. I call finance and it's like, okay, you put in your appeal, this, that, and the other. Don't worry about it. By the time everything, it shouldn't come out your paycheck. That very next, I got that. It was like 2 weeks. The next paycheck, which was like 2 weeks later, they already took it out. So I'm like, you just told me this thing was not going to be taken out. So now I'm $1,600 less. Now I have a almost 18-year-old in the house who destroys groceries like it's nobody's business. Almost 3 times the grocery bill that I had living alone. So now I'm like, so now I'm $1,600 less a month, and now I have a extra mouth to feed. Well, you might as well say 3 extra mouths to feed because he was killing groceries. So now I'm like, okay. So now the money that I have saved, of course, is just quickly dwindling down, which started that process right there. And it really sunk me because the first thing I could think of is I'm like, wow, I gave you 20 years. No problem. I've never got in trouble. You said do something. Boom. It was done. I was like, and then you pulled us at the very end. I was like, wow. Okay. So now I got to turn in my paperwork to the appeal office. So I'm turning in all my paperwork, everything, got my commander, all these different things, letters, whatever they asked for, I turned in, right? So turn it in. I'm working with this guy who works in the collection section, I guess. And this is the thing that even drove me even more. It was just so many red flags. He was like, wow, they went back that far? I've never seen them go back that far. Number one. Dang, that's a lot. I've never seen this. So this dude's saying all kinds of stuff. I'm like, huh. It just nothing added up. I'm like, this does not even feel right. So I'm like, okay, this is, I'm like, they're trying to make me go out here and be angry and leave and be mad. I'm like, this is what's going on. So now I'm talking to my friends about it, right? And one of my friends who in a totally different branch, he's like, what? He's like, I get that. And he told me his situation. I was like, wow. Talking to a couple of my friends, 2 more of my friends are getting it as well. So now I'm like, they really did this on purpose. Like it was too clear that that could not have been a coincidence. 11 years had passed in between, which means I'm in process and out process of finance multiple times. So now you're trying to tell me that you find this out, quote unquote, mistake when I'm about to retire. That's when you find this out. None the 11 prior years to this did you to discover this quote unquote mistake, but you just happen to stumble upon this right when I'm about to retire, right? So I'm turning in this paperwork, and the guy that works there, he's about to PCS in a couple months. This guy doesn't even do anything with my stuff. So now my stuff just sits there, and I have to go through the whole process again with another person. So the whole process was just shady. And now, by the time I retire and I'm fully out, like it was, I was so angry because I'm like, I gave you guys 20 freaking years, and then you do this, and then now that's when I go back home to where I'm from, because at this point my son had like a couple more months, like 3-4 more months before he could graduate, because I ended up retiring in December. And and I couldn't let him finish over there. They were like, it was going to be, in order for him to finish on base, I would have to pay, because I would be considered a civilian. I was like, okay, well, how much would it be? And it was like, like 12 grand they're talking about. I was like, for high school? I was like, are you kidding me? So I was like, no. So now I was very close, because I had no intentions of coming back to the U.S. I was just going to stay overseas. That was my plan before my son joined me. And I was always asking, my entire time I was separated from my son, to his mom, like to let me get him, but she would never do it. So when I finally had the chance, I was like, I don't want to just send him back. So I came back to the U.S. just to make sure I could spend some time with him before he finished his last few months. So I came back to the U.S., and that's how I ended up back where I was at with my family. And basically, I still was working on my case at that point. So I sent a letter to Lindsey Graham office, and what was the other one? Lindsey Graham, and there was another senator, John McCain, who is now passed. So I had both of these senators, because I knew they were big on the military affiliation and all the stuff like that. So they heard my case. They sent in their little letters. Both of them got denied, right? So I'm like, wow. So now I'm speaking with the senator appealing my case and this, that, and the other. And every time I call, the person you speak to is basically a person who reads the notes of the people who worked in the office. So, and I didn't find this out until like the 7th call. So I'm like, why is it every time I call that like none of my questions get answered? You guys don't know what's going on. And I was getting pissed because, and then I finally found out, speaking to one of the people on the phone, like they don't even work in that office. They're like, well, only thing I can do is read the notes. So I'm like, so what is the point of this? I'm like, it was so frustrating because I'm like, how could you help me? They can type down what I say and send that message to the office. I'm like, this is stupid. I'm like, it was like cat and mouse. And then they started asking for documents that were irrelevant and they know I wouldn't have access to. They were like, okay, well, if you said they called you in, can you provide that email? I'm like, now you're being stupid. I'm like, I was like, show me an email that you got from a different base 11 years ago. I'm like, why would I print that email out thinking, hey, I'm going to need this 11 years from now just in case? No, I'm not. I did not print that email out. Then they started asking me for bills and stuff from Japan. I was like, okay. I saw, like, they knew I wasn't going to have any of this stuff because I already provided everything that was there, because they had a printed out list of everything you needed for your appeal case. And I got everything on that. And I turned it in quick. Everything was on that list. I'm like, so now they give me a new, and none of that stuff is on there. It's like they were making up stuff. I'm like, stuff I couldn't provide them with. So I'm like, wow. I'm like, that right there is when I was really getting upset at this. And one day I was driving and I hung up the phone with one of the people in the appeal office. And I hung up the phone. I was so mad, and I was driving, and I was like, I started like gasping. I was like, am I having a freaking a panic attack? I was like, I had to pull up to the side. I was like, and I worked in the hospital for 20 years. So I'm like, I'm having a freaking panic attack. Oh, heck no. So I was like, that's when I knew. I was like, all right, I got to figure out a new way of going forward with this. Because once my body starts reacting to things, I know whatever I'm dealing with, I need to change at that point. That's my warning system. As soon as my body starts reacting to things, I know, okay, let me pay attention to what's going on right now. And I just had to change my perspective on it because, once again, I now know how energy works. So basically, by them doing that, that keeps my energy attached to them because now I'm mad. This is the same thing as that house thing. If you haven't listened to that message, it's the same exact thing. Same exact thing. Doing something that you know the other person will feel is unfair and be angry and have that attachment to, and whatever it is you're angry at, you're sending energy at. And that whatever you're sending energy at, now they have access to your energy because you've attached it emotion, and that's a deep emotion, right? So now they're extracting energy. So I got that going on in the military, and at the same time, I go back home, and then I start dealing with stuff with the family. So all this stuff is going on at the same exact time, and it was just like boom, one thing after another. So I had so much pressure on me, so it was very tough to stay in a positive mental space because it was just one thing after another, and it was just, I was totally not myself, especially for, I would say, at least the first 2 years. It was horrible. The first 2 years I was there, I was not myself because it was just so much being put on me, and my energy was being pulled. Things were going on. My mind was being attacked. It was crazy. And like I said, I had to change my perspective because you can look at these things and you can be right. I know I had the right to be upset. Of course, who would not be upset when somebody's telling you you should get something and then they come back with that, right? And the way it was handled, it just made it all worse. There was just so many things. At the same time, when I was still had 11 months left, like a few months prior to that, it was a big thing overseas where they overpaid like a bunch of civilians. Like they overpaid the civilian workers in their paychecks, and it ended up being like tens of millions of dollars, right? And they started like, well, they told the civilians, we're gonna have to get this money back, so we're gonna start taking out your guys' paycheck to pay it back. And they were like, no, you're not. You do. We're gonna quit. And they dropped the whole thing. Nobody had to pay it back. So I was like, wow. So on top of that, now I knew that. So I was just like, it was just so much that added to that anger. But that anger is what was tearing me up on the inside. Because just like a poison. And it's a low vibrational energy. So if I'm not mistaken, on the scale, it's like 100 or something like that. But that energy of my natural vibration, that's a lot lower than my natural vibration. So, and of course, anger that's a powerful emotion. It truly is a powerful emotion. You can spiral out of control with anger very easily. So that was definitely the first domino that just completely put me on a different path, a different track, which is what it was designed to do. Because there are no coincidences. And just the way that it played out, they couldn't give me any answers. It was ridiculous. And it put a huge sour taste in my mouth. And as I was going through the whole entire process, then my first sergeant came trying to ask me what I wanted to do for my retirement ceremony and this, that, and the other. And I said, I'm not even having one. Like, I didn't even have a retirement ceremony, which is not the norm. So I was like, I'm no. No. I said, I'm not going to celebrate anything of that. I was like, I said, when he was mad when I told him. I was like, because I was mad. I said, let me ask you this. I said, if somebody had a 20-year prison sentence, is the prison going to throw them a party when they leave? He was like, that's not the same. I was like, yes, it is the same. I was like, it's the exact same thing. Especially at the end when I had that bad taste in my mouth. There was nothing they can convince me of at that point because I was pissed because I knew what they were doing was not cool. So that was definitely the initiator of being put in a dark place. So basically, I'm saying that to say this. It doesn't matter what happens to you. You can always recover if you choose to. Now, we can let all these different things that happen in our world make us or break us. The things I've been through like multiple major betrayals, multiple. One of those betrayals can sink a person forever. I've had multiple. And each time I get one, it makes me more stronger. So by the time that next one comes, it still sucks, but it doesn't suck as long. And now I'm at a point that if anything happens, I know how to deal with it. Because I know I'm not going to stop. Because what has happened to me throughout my life has just made me that much more stronger. So don't let anything break you down. As soon as you feel a certain situation pulling your energy and you get to, like, I know my body's warning sign. When I get a certain feeling, I know, okay, something's got to change. That's my automatic something's got to change. And I know at that point, whatever is applying stress to my life, if I can't fix it, it is gone. Period. There is no discussion because I worked 20 years in the hospital, 20. And like I said, I am extremely curious. So when I'm treating patients, I'm asking a bunch of questions. Why? Because I know the best thing in medicine, and that's prevention. Prevention tops cure 100% of the time. So working in a hospital, I know I'm trying to prevent myself from ending up how I treated a lot of these patients because I asked them a lot of questions. And I know the power of stress, what stress does to you. From dealing with patients and myself, experiencing it. So if something is breaking you down and it's starting to affect your mental, you're gaining weight, you're losing weight, whatever it is, you might want to look at whatever is causing that and truly sit with, hey, okay, this is really, really affecting me. Can I change this? Nope, it's out of my control. Okay, then I need to remove myself from it. That's the way I see it. Because I can't control anything outside of myself, nor will I try. So what I can control is me and how I see things, how I deal with things. So I work with that. I promise you, no matter what happens in your life, and I do mean it does not matter, with the right mindset, right perspective, you will come out stronger on the other end. And as I said, I don't put out these messages. This message right here is not to bash the military. It's not to bash anyone. None of the message I put out is to gain clout and traction. It is to bring awareness to essentially your mental health and getting in the right mindset. And once you do that, ascending into your truest and highest version of yourself. Because as long as you stay trapped with fear and anger and resentment and jealousy and all these different lower vibrating emotions, that's where you always will stay. You're going to have lots of disease and all kinds of other things going on in your body. But I'm going to leave it at that. I just wanted to put that message out so people can start to understand the domino, basically, because that definitely was the first one. So that definitely was the first one. So that put me in a bad place when I retired, and from there on, it got worse, which you could hear in the other messages. But I just wanted to put that message out today, and I'm going to leave it at that. So, as always, you found this interesting and you want to hear more messages like this, I ask that you like and subscribe, and I will check you in the next message.